Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are live with another Metropolitan Report Live. It is I, your host, Alfred Jr., joined by two guests this afternoon on this cold Saturday afternoon in New York City. Barry Grant Jr., returning friend of the show as always. And for the first time, Tom Greer, who also talks with Barry on the All Even podcast when they cover Mets coverage. Gentlemen, good to have you.
Thank you, sir, for having us today on your show. You didn't mention the name of the show, and I don't appreciate that. Queens get the money on all these podcasts, the channel. So just remember, put that out there. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying.
I was corrected the last time you made an appearance on the program, sir, so I'm just trying to get it right. But nonetheless, the Mets have had an eventful week, and for anybody who keeps up with this program, by the way, don't forget to subscribe if you are on YouTube. Leave us a comment on YouTube, Facebook. We will read your comments, answer your questions. But I've been very critical of David Stearns. Barry is no secret. We talk offline all the time. Sometimes you disagree with me quite often on the things I say about that man.
Sometimes.
But he had Mets fans in an uproar from trading away Brandon Nimmo, letting Pete Alonso walk, letting Edwin Diaz walk. A lot of his early moves, like Luke Weaver, Devin Williams, weren't really received very well. But then he seemed to have turned a corner when he signed Bo Bichette. And now 3 trades in a week. 3 trades, and 2 of them major splashes. Of course, we saw him ship Luis Angel Acuna to the south side of Chicago to the White Sox for Luis Robert Jr. And then the starting pitcher that seemingly every Mets fan wanted, Freddy Peralta, is now a New York Met, as is Tobias Myers. So let's just get into it. We'll start with the Peralta trade. Brandon Sproat and Jet Williams going over on to the Milwaukee side. We get Freddy Peralta and Tobias Myers. Of course, Freddy Peralta, granted, he's no Tarek Skubal, but he could easily be a number 1 on a lot of teams. The man was an all-star last year, had a great showing. We'll start with you first, Tom, since you haven't been on the program before. How do you feel about the whole Freddy Peralta trade? Do you feel like we gave up too much? Do you feel like we fleeced the Brewers? Like, what's your opinion?
I think we gave up exactly what we had to give up. I don't think it's a fleece. I don't think we gave up too much. I think you gave up what you're going to have to give up to get a player the caliber of Freddy Peralta, especially with Brandon Sproat probably had a little bit more like big league ready kind of vibe to him, but you got to give up a pitcher to get a pitcher. And Jet Williams, I know that there have been some people saying that the whole Jet Williams is blocked thing is like a myth and it's not really all that true. I don't kind of see it that way. I see a lot of positions that Jet Williams plays that are occupied by other people right now. So as good as he might be, the Mets had to give him up to make this move, because what is the thing? Like last year, we were complaining that the Mets didn't hit with runners in scoring position, but the other big thing that we basically said all year was the Mets had no pitching. And we had to get a guy the likes of Freddy Peralta, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. I was a little bummed. I got back into my old prospect hugging ways and was like, damn, Jet Williams, that kind of sucks. Brandon Sproat, that kind of sucks. But I was like, you know what? The Mets are deep in their farm system. They're a pitching factory, and we got so many position players that'll probably just fill that Jet Williams role that, you got to do it. Even if it's for a rental, you got to do it.
Okay, and Barry, your opinion on Peralta? You think he signs the extension? I know the Mets came out in the media and said they wanted to let Freddie get accustomed to the organization before they start to pursue a potential extension.
I think we have to learn at this point now that whatever David Stearns tells you may not necessarily be all written in, not saying fact, but it's not to be taken like to be etched in stone, right? I think both things could be true. I think he wants to see how Freddy Peralta does in New York, and he's also considering different options in regards to length of contract, AAV, all of these things. So while he's getting acclimated being in New York and seeing how things work, I think they're going to be working behind the scenes to see what number they can be able to get to that's comfortable for both sides to be able to move forward. Because I think just like me and Tom talked about last night on our show, that because there's so much familiarity here, David Stearns went to go get Freddy Peralta to bring him on the Brewers, right? He developed Freddy Peralta. Freddy Peralta struggled very early on in his Brewers tenure, right? His velocity has increased as he's gotten older. He's becoming, over the last 2 seasons, 173 innings pitched. Last season, 176 innings pitched. So he's starting to become that ace bulldog that you want. So if you're projecting out, David Stearns would be smart to be able to try to lock up Freddy Peralta before he hits free agency. So I think everything is on the table. What Tom was talking about as well in regards to what they gave up was just perfect. I am one of those people that believe that, like Tom, there was just no path for Jet Williams to be here. You would literally have to move somebody to actually give him a spot. And there's nobody right now that you would feel comfortable moving Jet Williams for without him proving himself at the major league level. Like we've seen everybody else. We really haven't seen Jet Williams. We've heard all of these great stories about him, but we haven't seen him do anything at the major league level. So it's just more of a myth than anything else. I'd rather get a sure player, and that's exactly what we got in regards to Peralta and Myers.
And not to mention, I don't know if this factors into anything, but Jet Williams was a Billy Epler pick. He was not a Stearns guy, and we clearly see how Stearns feels about guys who he didn't bring in or he doesn't develop. So, that's that. A couple of comments here. Good friend of the show, Minnesota Fats. Hey, what's going on? Frankie Diaz, what's up, fellas? Frankie wants to know chances we extend Freddy. So I'll start with you, Barry. From 0% to 100%. What do you think the chances are, and when do you think it gets done?
75%. I think, to be honest with you, we're not going to hear much about it because the Mets like to keep things very close to the vest. In the David Stearns tenure, there are no leaks really like that. So we're not going to really hear anything. Things are going to be quiet. You're going to hear the media put more pressure on what the timeline is more than what David Stearns and Freddy Peralta will. But I believe that I can see things happening before spring training. Not before spring training, before the season starts, just because that's the best way to do it. So there is no distractions. We're not having any questions about this going into the season. Freddy Peralta struggles, and then look what's going on with the Mets. They traded all of this draft, this prospect capital, and he's struggling. Are they going to trade him at the deadline? Is he just kind of quell all of that stuff? You want to focus on camaraderie, chemistry, building a very positive clubhouse, being able to have the players secure, because I do believe if Peralta gets a deal, he feels more secure being comfortable here and being able to just work on his craft. So I do believe that 75% that this gets done before opening day.
So you think this is reminiscent of Francisco Lindor when he first came over, got the deal done in spring training, haven't looked back since?
Correct.
Okay, Tom, what's your opinion?
I think as far as what Barry said, we spoke about this last night. As far as before the season starts, I don't see that happening at all. As far as like a deal getting struck or an extension getting struck, I'd say probably like 50-50 right now. It kind of depends on where we are at the end of the season, because I think that's ultimately what's going to happen. I think David Stearns has shown us that he's going to let the market play out. And what I love about David Stearns is, like Barry said, that there's going to be a lot of media pressure and fan pressure to get the deal done, just so we don't have that hanging over our heads worrying about him walking in free agency. David Stearns is cold-blooded, doesn't listen to a word of that. He doesn't make reactionary moves based on what the media says or what the fans are saying. He does what he feels is right. And what I feel like he's going to do is he's going to be like, okay, Freddie, this is your contract year. Come to Queens, show that you can pitch in New York, give us your all. And then if they can get to a number that fits what the Mets want, they'll re-sign him. And I think ultimately when he's going to be the second pitcher in that free agent class, I think, if I'm correct, behind Tariq Skubal, the fact that he is going to be above 30 or at least 30 going into his 30-31 season next year, that mega deal might not necessarily be there because we see guys in their 30s not getting them. So I think David Stearns is going to do what David Stearns does. He's going to play the market, see what the market dictates, and then he's going to make the deal if the deal fits what he wants.
Okay, so you're more 50-50.
Yeah.
All right. Carl McNeil has a comment here. I have confidence in Stearns. They had to give up something to get something. If Jet Williams and Sproat become stars, they can just sign them when they become free agents, re-sign Peralta. Okay, Minnesota Fats with another comment. Tom is right. We had to do it. I think the Mets got fleeced. Corbin Burns' return was Joey Ortiz and DL Hall. Ortiz and Hall are bums next to Sproat and Williams. Interesting.
Can I just say one thing about
Sure.
that real quick? I'm gonna talk. This might have came up later, but I'm gonna say it now. I'll talk about Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat, or Jet Williams specifically, because he's a position player, in the terms of as a Mets prospect. Sure, the Mets have developed some great prospects, or had some great prospects: David Wright, Jose Reyes, Pete Alonso. But you want to know who else the Mets had? Lastings Milledge, Fernando Martinez, Jordani Valdespin. Like, there's so many guys.
Jared Kelenic,
Gavin Cicchini. There's so many guys that you hear about coming through the pike that are like, oh my God, these guys can't miss, and then they get to the majors and then they don't perform.
Flame out.
And they flame out. They don't even get the chance to flame out. You know, they're like a wet match in a dark cave. You know what I mean? So like, sure, in all honesty, I hope Brandon Sproat and Jet Williams have great careers. I hope, good for them. But you got to give to get good players, and that's what the Mets did. So I'm not really going to lose much sleep about it.
Here's the hot take from my opinion, and I told Barry this when the news broke, but I think we traded the wrong pitcher. I think we should have got rid of Jonah Tong instead of Brandon Sproat. And Barry's over there shaking his head, but my thing with Tong is everybody was so in love with this kid, rightfully so. He was the minor league strikeout leader last year, and I have a video on my channel of his first start. I live vlogged it, and I didn't like what I saw from him. Granted, it was a small sample size. I think he had maybe 4 or 5 starts, but the kid just got knocked around. Sproat had more composure to him, if you get what I mean. Like,
you know who else got knocked around in his first 4 or 5 starts?
Who?
Roy Halladay.
The man's a Hall of Famer.
Also, I mean, like, the thing is I like Tong's upside, and the fact that he was able to rise through the minor leagues as quickly as he did, that makes me really excited, and I want to see him develop and see. Because I mean, like, let's be real. When we're looking at the starting staff last year, if you looked at everybody, I would have thought the most likely person to have gone trick or treating on Halloween is Jonah Tong. Jonah Tong looks 12. You know what I mean? I think he needs time to like develop and become that like big picture that we're expecting. And you saw a little bit of it last year, but he did look a little overmatched. You know what I mean? He needs a little more seasoning. He's still a child, basically.
Yeah, and also too, he's 4 years younger than Sproat, and you got to think about it. He dominated the minor league system with 1 pitch.
Yeah.
This is a guy that had a fastball that was blowing by everybody, and he still hasn't really locked in his secondary pitches yet. He used to have a 12-6 that didn't really connect, right? So now they're going to be able to work on his secondary pitches with a guy that has that type of active fastball. The floor is so much higher than Brandon Sproat, and his ceiling is so much higher than Brandon Sproat. Yes, Brandon Sproat may be a very, very average to above average to maybe even a great starting pitcher in the league. But at the end of the day, he is 26 years old. So, it's now or never for him to be able to see what he can be able to do. And with a team that's trying to win like the Mets, you don't have time to develop guys on the fly. You need somebody that's going to be able to be in there and know exactly what they're going to be able to give you without having this project that you're trying to figure out in real time. That's why Jonah Tong, being in the minors, he can just sit down there, develop, and when he's ready, he's going to be ready to go rather than throwing him to the fire like they did last season because they had nobody else. That's the difference in regards to keeping Tong over Brandon Sproat.
I mean, I'm just, and Barry, you know me, I'm a guy that I'm strictly off numbers. And when you look at the numbers of Brandon Sproat, yeah, granted his win-loss record, he didn't record a win last year, 0-2. But the 4.79 ERA that he posted, I'd rather have than the 7.71 that Tong posted. Also, granted, he may not be ready, but in terms of, if you look at Tong starts, take the first start that he had against that Marlins team in his first game, right? I mean, anytime you spot a pitcher 12 runs in the first 2 innings, you're no starting pitcher can lose that game. But I think when you looked at his second start and he didn't even make it out of the first, I mean, granted, yeah, he's still young, and he got called up in an emergency. I get it. Like these things are one-off anomalies that don't happen to most pitchers. But I don't know. I just feel like, and if I'm wrong in a year or after this year or whenever it is, I'll admit I'm wrong. But I don't know. I just for a team.
Last thing before I let Tom go, Freddy Peralta in his year 23 season with the Brewers. You know what his ERA was?
What was it?
It was over 5. So when I'm telling you that some guys need time to develop, you got to understand that Jonah Tong is going against major league hitters. No matter how bad guys are, they're still major league hitters. So you can dominate the minors, but when you have one pitch and you might be tipping your pitches because your delivery is not solid yet for major league hitters, they're going to hammer you. So he was never ready to be called up, even though he was the MVP pitcher in the minors. That still doesn't mean that he's supposed to get promoted. That just means that he's did his thing and now he needs to start progressing even more. They had to call him up because they had to. Had it not been that situation, you would have never seen Jonah Tong. We would have never been having this conversation had David Stearns did the right thing in regards to having more pitching depth. That's the problem. So you're dissecting this kid when he was never supposed to be here. You know what I'm saying? That's like if the Mets called up David Wright at 19. Would he be ready to be called up at 19? Probably not. Mm-hmm. So if you have your opinion at him at 19, then what was your opinion of him at 22 when he was ready?
No, I agree. And I think what also helps. And I think what also helps is I think Steve Gelbs might have said it after the trade happened. I think he did. But you hear it from a lot of Mets beat reporters, a lot of people within the Mets organization that they believe that they have a good pitching crop of guys coming through the pipeline. So what I take out of that is, okay, the Mets look at themselves as like a pitching factory. Like they're just going to be churning and burning pitchers trying to get guys developed and ready for the majors. So I'm willing to trade from a position of like depth than I am for anything else. Like I agree. Sproat showed me a lot of good things last year and showed me a lot of things that could make him like a real competent starter. But if I have a guy that's Freddy Peralta, who's more definitive, like I don't necessarily have to worry about Freddy Peralta developing because he's already developed. He's here, So I again, you got to give to get. So if Sproat is the guy that they wanted, give him Sproat.
Because the reason for my thinking also is that Stearns has come out and said, we're going to compete. We're going to compete. We're going to be a competitive team this year. So from where I sit, you want to compete, you take the guy who's shown you more instead of trying to develop on the fly. But we'll see what happens.
But again, and again, I don't necessarily know if we know like who they were talking about in a lot of these deals. So like I don't even know if the Brewers, if they're trading Freddy Peralta, they probably want a guy that's, especially because the Brewers aren't trading Freddy Peralta to rebuild and retool. No. Like the Brewers are going in because they want to go compete. They want to be that team that we've seen over the last few years that is competing for at least a playoff spot.
They wanted at least a major league starter. Like we don't know what Brandon Sproat's going to be, but at least you know that his stuff is good enough to be a major league starter. Is he going to be a great major league starter? No, maybe not. We don't know, but at least he has the stuff where a team like the Brewers can take a chance. We can't. We're not in a position to do that.
And it's not Nolan McLean. That's all that matters.
He is no Nolan McLean.
Nolan McLean should be untouchable, by the way. Let's get into some more comments. My good friend Elliot Nicodemi says, is rooting for the name on the back of the jersey a fruitless endeavor at this point?
Yep. I'll take it, Tom. I'll take it. Yes. There's too many Met fans at this point. I've seen so many things online. We had a great week, right? Put together the team. Like we see the plan coming together, right? A lot of Met fans are enthusiastic, myself and Tom included. But you still have people like, oh, well, I still miss Pete. He's gone. Mm-hmm. He's gone, okay? No more Pete Alonso, no more Nimmo, no more Diaz. At some point, Met fans have to move on because at the end of the day, that means that you're not going to give this team a chance to be able to win you over and be successful and be supportive of the team. Like, we've been through this before as Met fans. We've seen Mike Piazza not retire as a Met. We've seen Darryl Strawberry leave. We've seen Robin Ventura go out the door. We've seen Eduardo Alfonso leave. We've seen all the pitching, Syndergaard and Wheeler. All of these guys go out the door. We
Grom left. Seaver left 3 times.
Seaver, like this is Doc. What we call it, Doc Gooden. Like, we have seen so many great Mets players go out the door. And you know what we do? We tuck our shoulders and then we raise our heads up again for the next crop of stars that come in. So let's just cut the bullshit in regards to people just continuously hammering this nonsense. Players leave all the time. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah, agreed. It's like that thing that they say where like the players never really understand the fans, because like us fans, like like players are going to come and go. We're going to be here. Like, unless you're somebody that likes to jump ship to other teams. Like, I've seen some people like to say, I'm not watching baseball. I'm going to go root for the Dodgers. I'm going to root for the Yankees. Crazy. We're going to be here. We root for the Mets. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, in all those years where the Mets were rolling out like Colin Cowgills, Richard Hidalgo's, Eric Valence, like
Kurt Neuenhuis,
like Adani Echeverria's, right. Like all those years, like it didn't matter that name on the back. Like we were still gonna show up every game. We were gonna watch them on SNY. We were gonna show up to the stadium. Like, it's all about the Mets. It's less about Soto's awesome. I've loved Lindor since he came to the majors, but it's all about the Mets. That's the biggest thing that matters.
You know why the Alonso thing hurts, and I've said it on my program before. It was the numbers. Excuse me. It was the numbers. But on top of the numbers, Stearns didn't even make him an offer. I don't know how you're slugging first baseman, probably the most prolific home run hitter in your franchise's history, gets an offer. He comes back to you because he at least wants you to like try to match it, and you just tell him good luck.
Here's a comparison to you, and I'm gonna.
No, but before you start, there's a difference between trading a player and when a player wanted to stay. And he made no attempt to keep him.
And that's why I'm going to bring up this comparison to you. There was no trade in this scenario that I'm giving you. And I want you to ask me or answer my question in regards to who's the better player.
Sure.
The St. Louis Cardinals didn't offer Albert Pujols a contract.
They knew they couldn't pay what he wanted.
No, they could have. They didn't want to.
They weren't comfortable.
They didn't want to. So David Stearns did the same thing. Who's the better player? If St. Louis can be able to let a Hall of Fame, one of the greatest players we've ever seen, walk, Pete Alonso's no different. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that people have to stop this. This is not Luke Gehrig. This is not Joe DiMaggio. This is not Barry Bonds. This is a player that people have an affinity for. But at the end of the day, it's about the Mets. If the Mets win in the next 5 years and Pete Alonso hits 600 home runs in those 5 years combined in his career, who is going to be more happy? Met fans or Met fans that support Pete Alonso?
Met fans.
So this is what I'm saying. It's about winning. And if the players that were here did not win, it's time to be able to figure out a new crop of Met players that can be able to bring us a championship. That's what it's about. Because at the end of the day, people are too clamored about players. They want the Mets. They want the Mets to win their way. Oh, well, I want you to win with these guys. No, I just want you to win. I don't give a damn who's here. So that's how we should all be as fans in regards to stop worrying about who's here. Appreciate the guys that are here, support them. And if it doesn't work out, be upset, because I was upset in instant reaction, right? You can be upset in the moment, but at some point you got to turn the page and start moving forward, because that's just the game.
True. I can't disagree with you. And the way I looked at it, again, I was bummed too, just because I loved Pete. I love our homegrown guys. And but the way I looked at it is the Nimmo, Pete, little less Diaz. I think that was the Mets mess up. But I watched a team with all of these guys, Pete, McNeil, Nimmo, all this stuff. I've watched them underachieve year after year after year after year after year.
2 playoff bursts.
Exactly. And so I am, while it sucks and it hurts, I'm more open to change and figuring out another way to, because again, if they brought all of those players back, and made a trade for Freddy Peralta, I'm still not sure that they're going to get over the mountaintop and get to where they want to be. You know what I mean? I still don't know. Because again, like, sure, the Mets needed pitching last year, but with all of those guys that were here last year, none of them had a good approach at the plate. None of them had hit with runners in scoring position. Like, we still lost. We still had a monumental, historic collapse. Like, how many times do we get to say that as the Mets, that we got to witness a historic collapse?
Right. And
you know
also,
I mean?
too, we got to think about this, right? We might not ever know exactly what it was, right? We may not never hear, or maybe 10 years from now, we'll get this tell-all book and something reveals, right? But we have to be honest as Met fans. And I'm sure, you know, we're going to move on from this, but like, there was something bad in that clubhouse. And I'm not saying that it was like people are fighting each other or they just hated each other, but something just did not click. And for somebody who's played sports his whole life, you've played sports, Alfred. There's been a collection of players that you have played with in high school or whatever it is. It just doesn't click. You have good talent. Guys are good. Guys are cool. But at the end of the day, the team does not do much. And you have to find ways to be better. So if you can be able to now rip that core up that we've done several times in our history and be able to try to find the right mix of players, then that's what you have to do to be able to win. You know what I'm saying? No matter how good, no matter how much we love them as individuals, it's about winning. And those guys did not win. We were the lovable losers. You love them, but we were losers. We want to be winners at the end of the day. Numbers don't mean shit to me if you can't make the playoffs 2 consecutive seasons in a row. I don't care how many home runs you can hit. I don't care how many all-star games you can be able to have. I don't care how many batting titles you can win. We didn't win as a team. And that's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll die on the hill of the pitching was the problem last year, but
it was more than the pitching.
Listen, man, we had one guy finish third in MVP voting, the other guy over 120 RBIs, and another guy two 30-30 guys actually. So, but we'll see what this season holds. Another comment, Carl McNeil. He says Tong will be an ace eventually. That's a really high belief. And then he goes, look how long it took Beatty to pop. Minnesota Fats goes, I'm happy the Mets stopped dumpster diving for starting pitching. Hopefully Peralta can stay. Good friend of mine, Clint Alexander, says Peralta is a great ad. You just have to make sure if he performs up to par, you pay him. You gave up quality prospects, so it's imperative you make it worth it. All right, so moving on to the next acquisition. It's funny because this was a guy I called for the Mets to trade for last year. But Luis Robert Jr., no longer a Chicago White Sox. It's funny because he should have been moved at last year's deadline. It was no secret he fell out of favor with the White Sox organization. He was a malcontent. Why would you want a guy in your clubhouse who doesn't want to be there? He made it known he didn't want to be there. They held on to him throughout the season. He was in and out of the lineup as if he was some minor league call-up or some bench utility guy, when the guy's a former All-Star, former Silver Slugger. And I was always under the belief that a change of scenery for him would bring him back to form, because again, this guy's playing in a place he does not want to be there. We remember the White Sox used to run the AL Central for a couple of years. Then after they gave Tony La Russa the axe, they started losing. And then all these guys either started to decline or they got rid of them. Eloy Jimenez, Tim Anderson, Yasmani Grandal, the list goes on. And they kept Luis Robert, traded away Andrew Vaughn, put Robert on the bench in the stash, and now finally got rid of him. So I'll start with you, Tom. Do you think that this is a great pickup because the Mets had a need for center field? We heard that Carson Benj may have competed for a spot. Tyrone Taylor's still on the roster. Do you think Luis Robert is the center fielder that we need now that Cody Bellinger is no longer on the market?
I think he can be. I think there's a lot to. I think you're kind of right, and I've heard it a few times that like Luis Robert just didn't want to be there, which I get because look, I guess I unintentionally wore black to pay respects to the career of Luis Angel Acuna because he just got sent to baseball purgatory. So I I think he definitely wanted out. I do still. It does make me nervous because it's 2 seasons of kind of really subpar play. But look, you gave up Luis Angel Acuna, who really didn't have a spot on this team. He was going to be your guy that you put in to pinch run. You know what I mean? And maybe pick up a couple of games at second base, maybe. So you really didn't give up much for him. At worst, he's Juan Lagares. At best, he's a guy who can really lengthen that lineup when it gets to the bottom, because he'll probably be batting like 6th or 7th, I'd have to imagine. So I like that we have a definitive, can play center fielder. You're not going to have to worry about his defense. And since Benj does kind of project more to be a left fielder, if we're bringing him up, I know we're doing it a lot around the infield of playing guys out of position. I would rather play a young guy where he's comfortable just to get him acclimated to the majors. And if you want to move him to center at some point because Robert doesn't work out, at least he's got a base around and being like, okay, I can play here. I can play this outfield. I can hit at this major league level. So I'm all for it. I think Luis Robert is not perfect, but he is what the Mets needed.
Okay, and Barry, what's your take on Luis Robert? Are you going to miss Angel Acuna? Luis Angel Acuna, do you think they should have gave up Mauricio instead?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna miss Acuna just because I just like the player. He probably would have never met my expectations for him, right? Because we know his brother, we know how great his brother is, and you're always going to have that. Can he be that, right? But he's not that. He's a different player, right? Problem with Luis Angel Acuna with the Mets is that he was out of options. And I do believe that at some point you would have looked at that roster and David Stearns would have to make a very, very hard decision. And he probably would have had to DFA him. So the fact that you can be able to attach him to a trade for a need that you have in center field, guy that's a former Gold Glover, former Silver Slugger, former All-Star, 2 years removed from having a really, really career year, you have to take that chance because you really didn't give up anything. And the biggest thing for that with me is that, yes, he was a malcontent in Chicago, but can you blame him? The White Sox are a dumpster fire. They are a terrible team. And what people have to realize is that I know you're not an analytics guy, but you're a numbers guy. So when the talk started to heat up around Robert getting traded, he had the best stretch of hitting in the season because he was like, okay, it's time to go, right? I got to go show people how good I am so I can be able to get the hell out of here, right? Another example of that is Andrew Vaughn. Andrew Vaughn got traded from the White Sox to the Brewers. He could not play a lick on the White Sox because he didn't care. He goes to the Brewers and he's hitting 309, 9 home runs, 20 plus RBIs in 40 games or 60 games. People just wanted to get out of there because it's purgatory. It's hell. So I'm not going to fault a 27, 28-year-old kid that really doesn't want to be in a situation that's not beneficial for him. He's already getting paid, so it's not like he's playing for a contract right now. And the thing is that with him here, with all of the veterans that we have, with the culture that we're building in regards to so much international flavor that we have on the Mets, he's going to fit right in and feel at home right away. So he's going to have a lot of people that he can be able to, talk to, throw things off of, get advice from. So he's going to be fine here. I'm not worried about Robert here. I'm not going to worry about him at all. I think it was a great trade. I don't think when you look at it from a grand scheme of things, we gave up anything. We really didn't. We gave up a guy that was an extra infielder on our team. He wasn't our prospect, again, to your point that David Stearns doesn't like guys who are not his guys, right? And he had no more options left. So it was either DFA him or trade him, and they got somebody that was willing to take him. So it's a win-win for the Mets.
Yeah, and on top of that, I just feel like with the infield log jam that there was that you and I talked about the last time you were on the show when we signed Polanco. Again, where were you going to make room for Acuna? With Bo Bichette in the mix, that completely was going to either hurt him or Mauricio. Surprised they held on to Mauricio because I feel like there's more value in Mauricio if you were going to flip somebody for something. But again, I like Mauricio more than I like Acuna, so I'm glad that we got rid of Acuna and not Mauricio. You look at Luis Robert; he doesn't have an injury history, which is always a plus. I just hope that he doesn't end up like the last Cuban outfielder we had, where he's breaking his foot chasing boards and all this other type of stuff.
Well, if you're gonna talk about that Cuban outfield, he got us to a World Series.
He did. He hit a home run like every day.
Well, Daniel Murphy had 8 straight in that postseason stretch too.
But if it wasn't for that Cuban outfielder knocking in home runs literally every day in the season, the second half of the season, we don't get to the World Series. So
that's always true. For all of you out there, I recommend you check out that 3 Days in Queens documentary that SNY put together. Some really
oh my God, it's amazing.
Carl McNeil says, if they brought all the players back, they would be the Phillies. Okay. Yeah, Phillies made no moves, just re-signing. He also says, if they could only keep Robert Jr. healthy, we'd have a possible cleanup hitter. So, next question. Where in the lineup do you think Luis Robert is going to hit? Would you make him 4th?
No, I'd probably put him probably to start the season like 6th or 7th. I know there's a joke there somewhere, but I'm not making it. I'd probably put him there only because, again, like his offensive numbers in Chicago have not been great for the last couple of years. I don't want to put a lot of pressure on him. Just go in, come play center field. Let's see if you can recapture some of that magic. You're on a team that is looking to contend. And then if he proves that bat was just that he was just giving up on Chicago and he could still hit, maybe you can move him up to 4 or 5. But I would definitely probably keep him towards the bottom, and especially if he does get hot, it lengthens the lineup even more.
Makes sense. Minnesota Fat says, I have never seen a bad 1-year deal.
Facts.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess to think of it. But and then Minnesota Fats also says Luis Roberts should bat 9th. Treat him like a second leadoff hitter.
Wouldn't hate that. Would not hate that at all, actually.
I don't know how I feel about him hitting behind Alvarez, but I guess.
No pressure.
Well, yeah, that's true. And if he can perform in that spot. One other thing I want to note, I don't know how much of an impact it makes, but Cooper Criswell, who never played a game in the organization, got traded to Seattle for some cash. I don't even know why or how that came about. I mean, he was supposed to have a role in this bullpen. I covered it when he first signed a couple months back, and I don't even see the need to I don't even know why we picked him up just to flip him for a couple $1,000. But
that's a good deal. Okay, if you can get cash for somebody who you weren't going to use,
Facts.
Good stuff.
And it's a reliever. Like relievers, like outside of a couple of them, like relievers are so hit or miss that like you just basically reach in a bucket of names of relievers, throw it at the wall, see what sticks. And then maybe some of them will end up being good. Like they're so hit or miss year to year that, it's kind of a crapshoot. I don't know why anybody gives relievers long-term deals because they're so hot and cold.
Yeah, I feel only closers should get a long-term deal. On that note, Carl McNeil says he was traded to make room for Tobias. Yes, Tobias Myers coming over in that Freddy Peralta deal. I don't think we touched on Tobias Myers. So Tobias Myers is a very interesting case. He was in the 2024 season as a 5th starter for Milwaukee. Last season moved over to a bullpen role. Barry, I guess I'll ask you first. Any opinion on Tobias Myers? Do you like what you see from him?
Oh, I think he has great stuff. I think electric fastball. He's a guy that can be able to really, settle in with that and blow past guys with that pitch. A lot of aggression. Guy that looks for the big moment. We in that Brewers series we did get to him. That's fine, but he's good. He's a good pitcher, and I do see that. Because we know that David Stearns is like the mad scientist behind, especially with this pitching lab. Don't be surprised if they try to stretch him out and make him a starting pitcher. I'm just saying.
True.
Well, go ahead, Tom.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. No, I was just going to say that I kind of agree. I think Tobias Myers is going to end up being like Jose Budo, where like if they need him to start, you can put him in and you could start him. But I think for the most part, he's going to be like the long relief guy. Like if we need a guy to give us length, especially since look. Peralta, I think career only goes 5, which is good. It's basically a starting pitcher. There were a lot of guys last year that did not give us length, a lot of them, and a lot of them are still here. So I think it's good to have a Tobias Myers here because if you need a guy that, if a guy's struggling, if Mania doesn't have it, or if Holmes doesn't have it, or if Peterson doesn't have it, you could throw Tobias Myers and he can at least give you some length and kind of relieve the bullpen a little bit.
Yeah, and one thing the Mets missed, I mean, they used Brandon Waddell in certain spots, Max Kranick before he went out, in certain spots where they needed to eat up 2 or 3 innings. But and like what Tom said, and Tom, you bring up a good point, a lot of the guys who couldn't go to 5 late in the season are still here. And especially because we don't know if Clay Holmes or David Peterson are both going to suffer from arm fatigue again, which I think they suffered from last year. Hence why I don't really want Clay Holmes in the World Baseball Classic, but that's a different topic for a different day. But guys who are going to end up throwing their arms out, it's very important to have a long relief guy. And I feel like in today's game of baseball, the long relief man is a lost art. You don't really see a lot of long relievers, especially in today's age where Tommy John is more of a concern. Torn UCLs have become more of a concern. But I like the fact that we have a guy who now he's been a starting pitcher in the league before. He doesn't necessarily have to stay an exclusive bullpen guy because if there's a bullpen game, now instead of having Huáscar Brazoban give up bombs in the first inning just to take him out in the second, or Reed Garrett start a game, you have a guy you can say, okay, go out there, give us 2 or 3 good innings, and then we'll move on to the next guy after that. So I really do like the move. One thing I want to point out before we wrap things up, I know the Bo Bichette signing is not new news, but his introductory press conference, his agent was asked about the deal. And Bichette's got to opt out basically every year. Do you think that the reason he came to the Mets, and I'll start with you, Tom, the reason he came here was because nobody else was willing to give him an opt-out basically every year of the deal?
Yes, I think it was that, and I think it was also that that they just gave him the most money annually. I think that was a big help. I do agree that this is a 1-year deal. I do agree. I don't think it is that far-fetched to think that Bo won't exercise that opt-out, especially when we get to whatever next year is going to look like in terms of baseball. So I think that's where this kind of gets a little weird. But no, I think that's totally why. The Mets gave him a whole bunch of money up front, average annual value, and they let him decide. And I believe it was I don't know, I heard it first from Evan Roberts, is the next couple of years up until 2030, the position player market in free agency is bad. I think really the best one we're getting is Nico Horner. So if Bo Bichette has a career year, has a really good year, good things happen for us. So that's awesome. And then he could parlay it into a better deal. And, does David Stearns feel like he wants to bring him back? Maybe, but I'm worried about 2026. So let's go.
So you're not even concerned about anything that goes on beyond this year as of right now.
But just because of how 2027 is just such an unknown. Right. I don't believe a salary cap is coming. I'll believe it when it happens, but we don't know. There's probably gonna be a work stoppage. Are we gonna miss games? We don't know what the landscape of baseball is gonna look like next year. So all I care about right now is put a team together that's going to contend and possibly win a World Series. And I think that's I obviously don't necessarily know how you feel on this, but I think the reason that we've been seeing so many Mets fans be in an uproar is because we're in the same league as the Dodgers. And when you look at the Dodgers, I'm a firm believer there is not a move this year the Mets could have made that would make you on paper look at the Mets and look at the Dodgers and say, okay, we got them. Okay, so that's a problem. Even if you brought back Pete, even if you brought back Nimmo, even if you brought back Diaz and brought in Peralta or brought in Framber, all of those moves, you still sit and look at the Mets. Wow, I don't know if they're beating the Dodgers. So that's why I'm more open. Do some change, do something different, and if we can catch lightning in a bottle, just make the playoffs. Maybe we'll catch them sleeping.
And to your point, on paper, the Dodgers each of the last 3 seasons actually, they've looked like the powerhouse on paper. Yeah. And it's crazy that we have to compete or worry about a team where they're 1 through 8. They're 1 through 8 could be the cleanup hitter or the third hitter or the leadoff guy on another team.
Yeah.
You look at the amount of Hall of Fame talent on that team: Ohtani, Freeman, Betts. Muncie's not bad. He's been a key cog in their ignition. They add Kyle Tucker, so like you said, it's very hard. No matter what the Mets do, it's very hard to look at our roster and feel good when the Dodgers come to town in May. So I'm not even gonna lie to you. Last season and the year before, I basically gave up my my Dodgers Mets tickets because I'm like, it's gonna be a bloodbath. It's not gonna be fun. Only went to the game just so I could say that I saw Ohtani play live. But
who won the matchup last year?
We did.
Oh, okay.
But no, these guys. All right, while we're on the topic, I know I touched on it in a couple of videos ago, but all this deferred money that they're dishing out over in Chavez Ravine, do you think that in the next collective bargaining agreement, the other owners are gonna try to curtail that? Do you think they're gonna impose limits? Because look how many Diaz got deferred money, Tucker's got deferred money, Ohtani's got crazy deferred money.
What do you want, Tom? You want to take it?
No, you take it. Go for it.
Because I'm just over this Dodger talk, honestly. Like we're talking about the Mets here. I don't give two shits about the Dodgers. Here's my PSA for Met fans. Stop watching the Dodgers. If you want to watch the Dodgers, go support the Dodgers. Because at the end of the day, we are not the Dodgers. We are never going to be the Dodgers. It took the Dodgers 15 effing years to be able to do this. People don't remember that. People don't remember that the Dodgers had to blow up their entire organization, trade off their young players, be able to go get fringe guys and see how things work out, make the playoffs every year for 13 years. And then they started winning World Series. I have had it with people that are obsessed with the Dodgers. They have taken an MLB rule and they have used it. Every owner can be able to do this. You know the difference between the Dodgers and everybody else? The Dodgers win. So people want to go over there. They have nice weather. People like to be in California. So stop crying about the rules and just go ahead and just do exactly what they're trying to do. Put together an organization that players want to play for. Put together a winner instead of pocketing all of that luxury tax money and not putting it back into your organization. That's the bullshit, is that the Dodgers don't care about how much money they spend. They make money hand over fist. They want to win and compete. There's many major league owners in baseball right now that don't give a shit about winning. Mm-hmm. They give a shit about winning. That's the difference. So why am I going to go ahead and try to curtail or try to baby or powder or pamper those owners that don't want to win like the Dodgers do? I think every owner should try to operate like the Dodgers. We would have a better league. So at the end of the day, I'm not talking about like that type of spending, but be competitive to the point where you're putting out a consistent product every season instead of having what we had with the Sacramento A's and down there with the Royals and all these other bad teams that are just not doing anything, right? Like you want to make sure that you try to be competitive. This is baseball. Stop pocketing all this money and stop crying that you don't have any money to spend. It's bullshit. True. There's a lot of money in baseball right now. Baseball is very popular and people are making money hand over fist. The Dodgers are literally paying for all of these small market teams in the league right now, and they're happy to do it. You know why? Because they don't give a shit. They're winning. So at the end of the day, for Met fans, stop watching the Dodgers. For Major League Baseball, stop crying about the Dodgers and start spending some money. Period.
Agreed. Totally agreed. And unfortunately, I think we're going to get to a point where it's going to be players versus owners, and then richer owners versus the smaller market owners, and that's what's going to lock all of this up. Because you're right, I don't care. Like, you're all billionaires. Like all of them, they're all billionaires. They all got money to spend. They all got the money to put into the team. A lot of these guys get big checks cut from the Mets, Yankees, and Dodgers, and then they just like Barry said, they just pocket it. So I think the deferred money, I don't really care about it. I just care that it's going to inevitably be an issue that causes us to maybe miss games. You know what I mean? That's kind of, and it's because the small market owners don't want to admit that they actually have the ability to spend and make their teams competitive. They don't care. Again, like Barry said, they don't care about winning.
Because think about it, right? The deferred, one last point, the deferred money actually helps the smaller market teams so they can be able to sign guys and be able to kind of stretch this contract out so the AAV is lower to be able to keep their payroll down. They don't want to do it. So it's not the Dodgers' fault. It's not big market teams' fault. They're saying, okay, well, there's a provision here. We can be able to make it beneficial for us to be able to have our payroll be a lot lower. Then fine, we'll do it. So people can do the same thing. That's the whole point. Deferred money has always been a thing in baseball. There's no reason why you should change it now. Honestly.
Here's my take on it. And I said this when I made the original video. I'll say it again. Just because you have a large payroll does not mean you're guaranteed to win anything. Look at us,
especially in baseball.
Prime example. Look at us in 2022, biggest payroll in baseball. We got bounced in the wild card round by the Padres. So, we've seen the Washington Nationals in recent memory win a World Series. They're not a large market team, even though geographically they play in a large city. But I mean, they're a small market team. Marlins have won twice. So the Royals beat us in the one World Series that'll haunt me for the rest of my life. So you'll never ever you'll never ever be guaranteed to win anything because you're a lot. Look at Tampa. Tampa up until recently playoffs every year. Milwaukee, small market team. They've only missed the playoffs once in the last 9 years. So including a couple of division titles. So.
You gotta play the games, Alfred. It doesn't matter how good your team is. You gotta play the games because injuries, attrition, people having down years, people having career years. It's all about the mix, how the chemistry works, how teams blossom early or late, how they figure out who gets hot towards the end of the season, who can be able to ride the wave. There's so many different variables in a baseball season. This is why, for me, like as a Met fan, I'm tired of people just jock riding the Dodgers. Let's just focus on what the Mets are going to do. If we can be able to make the playoffs, all you got to do is get in. Just get in and give yourself a chance. Because 2 seasons ago, the Padres took the Dodgers to the brink. They should have won that series, right?
Yeah.
In the World Series, we saw that the Blue Jays were 8 inches away from winning the World Series. And that's the great powerhouse Dodgers. So again, you have to play the games.
Yeah.
That's all it is. You know what I mean?
I don't hate the Dodgers because they spend. I hate them because they're good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's it.
I hate the Dodgers because the media is glazing the Dodgers. I don't hate the Dodgers. The Dodgers are a part of us.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Time out. I can't stand it.
What I'm saying is that they literally took something from us and ran to the other coast. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, if you go to City Field and go to the Jackie Robinson Thunder, which
oh my God, it makes
there,
me so mad. It makes me so mad. That should be another. That should.
It was criminal that they stole it in the middle of the night. So as Met fans, we should even have more of a personal beef with what's going on over there with the Dodgers. We don't care about them, but damn them. Screw the Dodgers. We don't care. There's going to be one time where we get the best of the Dodgers. If they don't win the World Series this year, I'm telling you, I'm going to be insufferable. And if we're the ones that take them out of the playoffs, I am going to every single Dodgers fan in New York, and I'm going to harass them. They're gonna have to file some type of charges on me because it's gonna get bad. It's
going to move to LA.
And you know what the sad part is, and I find the biggest hypocrisy on this topic comes from Yankee fans, right? So the Nick Totoros of the world and all these other guys, they complain about the Dodgers, but the Yankees is reminiscent of old man Steinbrenner, who bought everybody.
Yeah.
Steinbrenner, look at all those Yankee teams. He bought Gary Sheffield, he bought Johnny Damon, he bought Scott Brosius, Chuck Knobloch, Roger Clemens, David Wells,
everybody who was good was on the Yankees.
Exactly. He even took Canseco was there for a year. Strawberry, Gooden. He threw so much money around and said, "Come play for my team."
Listen, just think about it. It took 2 Hall of Famers and 2 great starting pitchers in 2001 to dethrone the Yankees. Just remember that.
And one of those pitchers ended up taking Steinbrenner's money and coming to the Bronx anyway.
Yeah.
So this has always been a thing in baseball. We just need to stop. Let the Dodgers do what they do. If players continue to want to go there, then great. That's just it's their time now. Somebody else is going to have their time. But at the end of the day, you still got to roll the ball out there. You still got to be able to play baseball and see what happens.
True.
All right. One last comment before we get out of here. A good friend of mine, Raw Royal, says, Scooble Rental, go for the gusto. Win now. F them prospects. I don't foresee Stearns making a Scooble trade, but It would be nice, but I just don't. I think we've seen the most of the signings and trades that we're going to see. I think
maybe more is coming, but we don't know.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think maybe if he signs anybody or trades it, it's one more transaction.
Yeah.
And then after that, this is the roster that we're going to see in Port St. Lucie.
Yeah.
Come the end of February.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, I don't think the Scooble thing's happening. I just don't believe if the Tigers are shopping him, they must be asking for like 2 farm systems. You know what I mean? Like they must be asking for AAA and AA.
Yeah.
You know, because I again like.
And I don't agree with wiping the farm clean just for a guy who may not even stay to begin with.
No, and you're gonna get him that like look again. And if you trade for Tariq Skubal, does that definitively put you over the top and make you this? I don't necessarily think so. I think the Mets, while we are excited, and I am excited, there are still question marks with the team. They got to go perform. So if the Tigers want to trade him for a lesser value at the deadline, cool, make that deal. But if not, we'll see. Well, Uncle Stevie will cut him a check in the offseason.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. I would prefer the Mets and the Dodgers go into a bidding war in the offseason to see who wins. Yeah, that's what I want to see. Don't leave our prospects alone. We will deal with you in the offseason.
Yeah.
Carl McNeil wants Kodai to go. Maybe Vientos too. I mean, again, Vientos is another guy hurt by the infield logjam. He or Beatty, one of the two, have to be the odd man out.
Vientos needs to go to Mars.
Yeah, he just doesn't have a position. He's a DH.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know what happened to the Mark Vientos of late 24, but whatever happened to him, he probably went way out of town in 25 because the swaggy V we had last season was.
Look, if he can come back and DH for us and do that, I'm all for it. I just do not trust him in the field one bit.
Guy's got a hole
far away from third base as humanly possible, please.
And then our last comment before we get out of here, Minnesota Fat says his sources, whoever they may be, are telling him that Vientos is gone for Harrison Bader.
Well, isn't Bader a free agent?
Yeah.
He is a free agent, yeah.
And we got a center fielder already.
Yeah, I don't see that.
I don't see Harrison Bader coming here to be a platoon guy or a bench guy. He's gonna want to go. He can go back to the Phillies.
He had a good year last year.
Yeah, he can go back to the Phillies and get everyday duty. Why would he be a bench guy here?
Could you imagine?
And his last stint here wasn't glamorous either. So,
but he does. He's from New York, so he does like New York. So would he do that? I don't know.
But he's from the Bronx. You know, Bronx people and Queens folks, they don't really mesh like that.
I kind of want Bader to go back to Philly because I want to see Philly sports media explode that they just keep bringing back the same guys that
same players
last year. That would be, oh my God, it's been chef's kiss listening to all that stuff for the past couple of months.
One last comment. Kodai saying bounce back this year, yes or no? We'll start
I think he does have a bounce back this year. Absolutely.
He's not I think he might. I think there's a chance he gets traded or dumped, but I think he's got a chance. He's got a shot. Pete Alonso's not throwing him lollipops at first base from the blow.
Yeah, he's not tearing hamstrings trying to cover first base anymore. So we'll see what happens.
I'm just joking, but yeah, it's kind
he's got an out of position third baseman throwing him lobbing him pitches now. So we'll see how that goes.
That's fair, all totally fair.
But we've reached the end of the program. Gentlemen, tell the people where they can listen to you talk Mets baseball.
Right on All Even Podcasts' channel. So you can go right there at All Even Podcasts on YouTube. Queens Get the Money will be a feature there. People have liked it. We've gotten good reviews on it. They like our dynamic in regards to Tom being the very calm, level-headed person and me being the fiery, no nonsense. I don't give two shits about what anybody says. So it works. And then we're going to go ahead and probably have the silent assassin in there as well. So we're gonna have a nice dynamic of Mets content coming, and it should be a very, very fun season. We're gonna be at City a lot this year as a trio. So a lot more content, a lot more stuff to come from Queens Get the Money.
I might have to come down from the press box and hang out with you.
You are not invited in our circle.
Why am I not invited?
You're not invited. All right? And make sure you don't wear no Pete Alonso jersey as well. I want to see that.
Oh no, I've retired all my my Pete memorabilia.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah,
he's not on the team anymore, so I'm not gonna walk around doing that.
That's fine. No,
I will go to Camden Yards one time this year just to see my old friend. Bro, he was a friend of the show. He did the intro for years, bro. Years.
Yeah. Did he text you when he left? Did he say goodbye, Alfred? So long, nice seeing you. No, he did not care. He took the money and went to Baltimore. So you don't spend any money to go see him. Okay, just like I told Tom last night, when Diaz comes back and they have the video package, they need to have a video package of Diaz getting shelled every time he pitches. That's the type of video package that I want. Damn Diaz, we don't care about you coming back, and you don't deserve to know damn video package.
To be fair, it wasn't his fault that
he wanted to go to the Dodgers. You wanted to go over there. That's fine. You can stay over there now.
So why didn't Stearns pay the extra $3 million?
Because he didn't want to. How about that? He didn't want
to go get his guy who got broken.
That's right. And if we can make the playoffs with his guys, I'd rather that. Listen, I'm over the team that was there last year. It's a new regime, new roster. David Stearns is cooking. Met fans need to get on board.
Now this comment is foul right here. Do you see that? Diaz video package crying on a wheelchair during World Baseball Classic.
Right? You put that in the video package. I like that. As New Yorkers, we are turning the page. Obviously, we're joking, but we are turning the page. It's time for a new era in Mets baseball. Let's not talk about the players that are no longer here anymore. Let this be the last podcast that we discuss Diaz, Nimmo, Alonso, McNeil, whoever else. They're gone. All right. Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and focus on what's to come, because I believe that it's the off year. Something always special happens with the Mets in an off year, and that's what I'm focused on.
Agreed.
100%. I'm shocked you're going to be in City. Tom, does this guy ever tell this? I don't know if you know this, but this guy swore to me he was done watching games on TV and going in person.
Yeah, that was last year
and the year before.
Yeah.
All because of a internet celebrity that threw out the first pitch.
Yeah, listen. Tom knows this story. You cannot have. What was the girl's name? The scam artist?
Hawk Tua girl, yeah.
Hawk Tua throwing out big. No.
Oh,
the gimmicks. And the gimmicks in City.
That's where we differ. That's where we differ. I think I love the gimmicks. I think
I know he does.
The grimace thing was funny and
I like
fun.
The grimace thing.
The OMG was fun back in 2024. But look, I know Barry's a very passionate Mets fan. And I've been there. Like I'm the same way. Like there's so many times where bad things will happen, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm not watching it anymore. I'm not watching. The
man threatened to boycott the Mets because the Rizzler threw out the first pitch. Like come on.
No talent. No talent being at Citi Field. Why? Why do we throw out these no talented people to throw out pitches? It's ridiculous.
We won that game.
You got to get the click. You got to get the social media clicks.
Unbelievable.
Well,
you got to relate to the younger people, and the Rizzler evidently did. I don't see it, but it did.
Listen. Unlike Barry, I'm not throwing any Mets memorabilia out of my window or out of my back door. So
you see how many Mets hats I have, right? I have a new Mets hat every time I do a show.
You have just as many as I do, but
the one you're wearing now that was probably my favorite.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
But folks, we're going to wrap it up. I have proved that I can make a show this offseason where I don't yell about anything, so that's always a plus. And
because we wouldn't allow you, because we just course corrected you on the show. Every time you tried to veer off on Peter Alonso, miss him. No, enough of that. All right, course correction. That's what me and Tom are. Okay, so every time you have us on, you call us the course correctors. That's what we're going to do.
All right, maybe I might have to ask Devin Williams to do the intro to my show now.
There you go.
There you go.
But nonetheless, folks, just stay tuned to the channel. We'll bring you updates. And yeah, don't forget to check out Queens Get the Money on the All Even podcast channel. The link to their show is in the description of this one. And yeah, it's been good talking Mets with you guys, and we'll see you later.